Hi everybody, welcome to Stamping with Melva. I'm Melva Peters and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in British Columbia, Canada, and you can find me online at stampingwithmelva.com. Today I want to show you how I made this fancy fold card that I shared as part of the blog hop. And so I'm going to change it up a little bit. The card that my sample card that I have here, actually I kind of messed up at the end of making it. I've got some ink marks. Never keep your ink pads open. Ask me how I know. I'll actually show you how I know. So I'm going to change it up a little bit as I make the card, but the fancy fold is the same. Kind of like this fold. It's, I don't know what the name of it is. It's kind of like a joyful card in the middle, but it's really not a joyful card. So first of all, I'm just going to show you the card and then you can help me decide what it's actually called. All right, so this is my sample card. We're gonna, like I said, change it up a little bit. You can see here, I don't know what I was doing, but I had it open when I was finishing up my card and got ink on it. So anyway, so this is using the Hello Irresistible Suite, the Irresistible Blooms bundle. I love this. This is one of the March exclusives, online exclusives. So the stamp set, the dies, these amazing little string of pearl. I call this one the string of pearl dies, and this one the bracelet of pearls, thanks to my customer Connie who gave me that name. So those are the dies that come with it, the stamp set and dies. That's the bundle. There's also beautiful designer series paper that I'm using here in this suite, and some loose frosted dots that I'll show you shortly. So this card opens like a normal card, but on the inside, it's kind of got a bit of a, I don't know, maybe it's a gatefold card of some sort. I don't know what to call it. Okay, so let's make this card. And as I said, I'm going to switch it up a little bit as I make it. So the first thing you need is a piece of cardstock. This is Daffodil Delight, and this is 5.5 by 8.5. And I'm going to score it at 4 1/4. And as always, grab your bone folder. And this really doesn't look like that's scored at the right measurement. So let's try that again. Make sure I've got it cut the first. So it is 8.5. Okay, I scored it at, oh, that's right, 4. Why doesn't that look right? I guess it is right. It is. My eyes are going. That just didn't look like it was in the center. All right, as always, I score in or fold into the mountain and use your bone folder. Somebody said to me, I get a comment that this is a well-used bone folder. Yes, it absolutely is well-used. I use this, my bone folder, when I re-ink my ink pads. I use this to kind of smooth over the ink and kind of spread it into the foam pad. So you could use a spoon, a plastic spoon or something. I always just grab my bone folder. Okay, so that's the card base. And then the piece for the inside of the card is cut 5 1/4 inches by 8 inches. It's scored at 2 inches and 4 inches. Now, when I scored this, this is the side I scored on. So I scored it at the 4 inch, and then I scored it at 6 inches. But I turned it over. So if this is the side that I scored on, this is the indented. When I scored this one, I turned it over and scored on the other side. And the reason I did that is because I always tell you to fold into the mountain or the raised line. So I'm going to fold it this way in half. So this is the piece that goes the opposite way when you're on the inside of your card. So I'm going to use my bone folder to burnish. So, and then this kind of folds back on itself that way. And when you fold into the raised line or into the mountain, it gives you a better crease. If you don't do it that way, it's not a huge deal in this one, but I do find you get a much better fold if you fold into the mountain or the raised line. Okay, so this is our card base, and then this fits on the inside of our card base like that, so that this will fold out. Okay. So let's work on our card base, because what we need to do is cut a hole in here so that we can see this circle on the inside. So I'm going to use a piece of this beautiful designer series paper. So this is going to be the side that's down the watercolor. And then on the inside, we're going to use the flip side of this. So I don't want to glue this down yet. But what I do want to do is I just want to kind of position it. So if you've got some removable positionable tape, I think that was what it's called, you can use that. I'm just going to use a piece of Post-it note tape just to hold my designer series paper. You could use a Post-it note, but I'm just wanting to hold my designer series paper in its position. I don't want to glue it down because on the inside of the card, on this circle, I'm using the opposite side of the designer series paper. So this is the second largest stitched rectangle, or yes, sorry, not stitched rectangle, stitched stylish shape ties. Goodness, this is a circle. So it's the second largest circle. So I'm just going to hold that in position with some tape. I've got it roughly in kind of equal distances from the edges and the top. And I'm going to run that through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. I'm just going to bring that over. My well-used plates. It's almost time to do something about these. They're kind of warped. All right, so I'm just going to position this on here. Everything's held in place, and then we'll just run it through. And I'm going to run it through a couple of times only because I'm going through 2 layers of paper with the cardstock and the designer series paper. And as I turn it over, I can actually see that it's cut through. So that's great. Okay, so all right, so let's take this off. You want to save these pieces because we're going to glue them together. So I'm going to glue the circles that I've cut out together. Oops. Carefully remove your Post-it note tape so it doesn't tear. Gently. As you run that through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, you will find that it really does adhere to the paper. Okay, let's see if I can get this off. There we go. Gently, gently. This really did stick. So just be very careful and gentle with it. Okay, so we've got our circle that cut out of this. So we can now take, and it did tear a little bit, I'm just going to put a little bit of glue. So if you find that, just take a little bit of your liquid glue. And oopsie, don't get it on your, let's say if you were a silicone mat, where would you be? You would be right here. So if I take my bone folder and just kind of rub that glue and push this back into place. Doing some surgery on my designer series paper. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry a minute. While that's drying, I'm gonna take and put, so I want this pretty kind of the string of pearls to be on the outside so that you see that through the hole. So we'll glue those 2 circles together. And now we can take and glue this. You can do the other side opposite to what I've done if you want, but I just really love those strings of what I'm calling strings of pearls. And so we're going to glue that so that those circles line up like that. So we've now got our opening. And then when this goes in the middle, my circle will adhere right in the opening like that, and will be on that side when you open it. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to cover up that opening, and I'm going to use this which is what I'm calling the bracelet of pearls. So I'm going to cut this from this piece of Flirty Flamingo. And when you cut this out, it doesn't cut the circle. So we're going to have to do a bit of surgery to kind of release the bracelet from the paper. So we're just going to cut this out. This, and I'll show you what I mean. If you haven't seen this, let's save that piece. I'm going to need it for a flower. Okay, so when you cut this out, you can see what happens is it just cuts out this line, these lines with the pearls on it in the paper. So I actually want to have this cut out and to adhere it to my card base. So what you can do is take your paper snips and just kind of cut, and you can cut on a curve if you want, or just cut straight across. But basically we're just cutting on these circles that attach this piece to the cardstock. So like this. There we go. So now I've got my bracelet of pearls released, and we're going to take that out for a minute, and we're going to just adhere it around. And I'm going to just take dots, and I'm going to put dots of glue, and I'm going to put little dots of glue on the outside circles. I don't want to do it on the inside circles because those inside circles are inside the opening. And so I just want to take little dots of glue on the outside pearls. And then we're just going to take and adhere that just so there's some decoration on around our opening. I just kind of like the look of it. Isn't that pretty? Okay, so now let's do that last. So let's decorate the front. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp the flowers. I'm going to stamp them in Versamark, and I'm going to heat emboss them using white embossing powder. And then I'm going to stamp the leaves on soft succulent paper using soft succulent ink. So I've got my embossing buddy that comes with the embossing editions. And so I just kind of rub that over. I'm going to do one flower in Flirty Flamingo. These are the smaller of the two flowers that come, and one in Daffodil Delight. And now I've got these out of the way for a minute. I've got my white embossing powder. I always keep mine in plastic containers so that I can just use a plastic spoon, or I can dip my piece in. I'm terrible with embossing powder. I make a mess, so this just helps me not make such a mess. She says, hopefully. Okay, and I'm using the tweezers. These tweezers are amazing that come with the embossing kit. So there we go. That's the Flirty Flamingo one. And now we can just take and do the Daffodil Delight one. So I've got that. Put my embossing powder away before I spill it, because that wouldn't be the first time that would happen. And now we can take these. This might be loud. I'm going to bring in my heat tool, always on high setting. And you want to hold the heat tool in one position until it starts to melt. So you will see it start to go from a kind of a dull matte finish to a shiny white finish. And so hold it in position until you see it start to melt. And then you can start to move it around. You don't want to hold it in position. Once it starts to melt, don't hold it for too long, because you kind of overcook it. But once you've got it all kind of shiny, you can kind of move over to the Flirty Flamingo one. That's hot. Let's hold this. Don't want to burn my hands. All right, there we go. So again, hold it until it starts to melt. It will go faster on the second one because it's kind of heated up. And then you can just kind of move it around until you get the whole piece done. There we go. So that's those. We'll cut those out in a minute. And now we're just going to do one of the large, so the leaves, the 3 leaves and one of the 2 leaves. And I'm going to stamp this tone on tone using my soft succulent. So I'm using soft succulent paper and soft succulent ink. Like that. I could, this designer series, the designer series paper, there are some of the patterns that you can actually cut these dies or these flowers and leaves out of, but I decided to do my own stamping. Okay, so that's the Flirty Flamingo. Again, I'm just using a bit of Post-it note tape. And then the leaves. Just to hold these in position so they don't shift around. And there's the other die. Oops. There we go. Okay, so I'll cut that one in a minute. Let me just bring in, things are shifting here. There we go. Hopefully that holds it. I'll just bring in my mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. These are great for just having for small spaces, or if you've got a small piece. The width of this is about 3 inches. So if your paper is wider than that, you'll either need to trim it or you'll need to use your big one. Okay, there we go. All right, those pieces. So I just need to cut out the Daffodil Delight one. I got something sticky on here because it is just stuck. I don't know what it is that's sticky. Something. All right. And now I can take this die off of the Flirty Flamingo and put them on here. Just kind of go around until you get them in the right position. All right, I'm going to take them off and run them through. Save bringing my machine. All right, there's the Daffodil Delight one. So a piece that can go in the recycling. So for those of you who follow me, you know I've been dealing with a broken wrist. My wrist is mostly healed, still sore, but I still struggle a little bit with turning the handle on my die cutting machines. Certain movements. One of these days, hopefully it'll be better. All right. So there's our flowers. So I just thought that they looked, these flowers I did just using tone on tone. I did color the flowers with Wink of Stella, but I just felt like they weren't quite bright enough, which is why I decided to brighten them up using the white embossing powder. Okay, so we're going to use dimensionals to put our flowers on. What you want to think about is making sure, because you don't want your flower to, you don't want it to adhere to the back of your card base. So when you're doing this, maybe open your card, because we're just going to put our dimensionals here at the bottom of our flowers. so it doesn't stick to the back. So we'll take that and put it on like that. And the Flirty Flamingo, like that. And then glue dots. I like to use glue dots to put the leaves or whatever it is I'm tucking in behind. So I'm just going to attach a glue dot to each of these leaves. And then again, make sure that you only glue it, adhere it to the front of your card. Okay, so then that can just tuck under there like that. So we've got, I definitely like the look of the white. Okay, so all we need now is a sentiment for the front. So I'm going to stamp the thank you in Flirty Flamingo. If you follow me, you know that I like to fussy cut my sentiments. So we're going to do that. You can use a die or a punch, but I don't know. It's a habit I think I got into. Sometimes it's just easier. I find it easier than to grab the die. But fussy cutting may not be for you. Now, I always say steer with the hand that's got the paper in it. So just you're steering the paper and not your scissors. You might find that easier to do some fussy cutting. There we go. And again, some dimensionals. Put it on the right way around. So we're just going to put it down here in the corner. There we go. All right, so that's the front for the moment. What we now want to do is work on the inside. So again, the inside of our card, this piece of basic white is going to go like this and open to the right, which is kind of opposite to what you might think. So we're going to finish the inside. I have a piece of designer series paper that I'm going to adhere on. This is cut 3/4 of an inch by 5 1/4. So just adding some glue. You can use Stampin' Seal, whatever your favorite is, but I'm just going to adhere it to this left edge, leaving just a little bit of white. And then I'm going to take and adhere my inside of my card, this basic white piece, to the inside. So this fits kind of like a standard layer, except it's got this kind of pop out fold on it like that. So again, that pulls out to the right. So your card actually is longer when it's open than a typical card. Okay, so now we've got this circle. So what I want to do, and I want my string of pearls to be straight up and down. And we're going to just glue this flat, but what I want to get it is into position so that it's kind of right in the circle opening. So I think what I'm going to do is position it on the back here like that. So it's in the opening like that. My circle, my string of pearls are pretty close to being straight up and down. Now, when you adhere this, you only want to adhere the right-hand side of this circle like that. So make sure, how am I going to do this? Okay, so we're going to make sure that we are only doing the right-hand side of our circle. So only half of the card or a third of the card or a third of the circle is going to be adhered. Which way is this going to go? Sorry, I'm having to think about this. This is backwards to what I'm thinking. Okay, so this is going to go in like this. So now it's opposite because this is going to now flip over to the right-hand side. Getting my circles straight. Just kind of turning it so that it's, or not my circles, my string of pearls are straight up and down. There we go. So that, I think, has got them. Nope, that's worse. Let's do it that way. Oof, I'm making it really bad here. Let's get this going the right way. There we go. I'm a bit challenged three-dimensionally, so trying to get these things straight and it's not cooperating. There we go. That's pretty straight. Okay. So that can go in like that. And then we can take it and just close our card and then push it down. And we've now got our circle adhered. So when it closes, that circle is in the right position. These kind of pearls are, okay, there we go. Isn't that pretty? Like that. If you want to do a sentiment on the inside, you certainly can. The last thing I do want to do is there are these loose frosted dots. They come in the green, the yellow, and the pink. So we're going to put some of these on. They do not have adhesive on them. So I'm just going to take and put just little dots of liquid glue. And I always do 3. You could do more than that if you want, but I always do just 3. So I'm going to do yellow. So I'm using the putty end of my take your pick tool, and pink, and another yellow. So they come in 3 sizes. I'm using 3 of the large ones for this card. There we go. So a little bit different look than this one. I think it's just a little bit more subtle. I very much like the one with the embossed flowers on it. It just kind of, I don't know, this one, the flowers just don't pop as much, I think. All right, so there is, I don't know, you can help me name this fancy fold. So again, it opens and it opens like that. Fun card. Just a little bit of thinking to get it right, at least thinking for me. So find your way over to my blog post for today's card, and you will find the written instructions and measurements for the card. The link to my blog is underneath this video, so you can find your way. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you aren't already, so you get notified of upcoming videos. Also, if you find your way over to my blog, you can subscribe to my newsletter or click the follow button and you'll get notified of blog posts that go live multiple times a week. So hopefully you'll follow me. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you have a great day. Happy stamping.